so our savings are protected, right? Well, it is,
They got
on the
this little
surface.
sticker on the
They
window.
can
On
take
the-
forever to pay you back too.
Well, they can take forever to pay you back, but if they paid you back tomorrow, you still have FDIC protection, okay? And what does FDIC protection amount to?
5%. 5%. Oh,
Well, it's actually, it's a tenth of that.
Okay.
The
I
government
agree.
is holding about 1/4% of all the money that they need to hold to protect our savings. But let's go a little bit bigger than that. Where does FDIC protection come from? It comes from taxpayers,
Wow.
right?
Right.
Because FDIC has to get the money from somewhere. It doesn't have its own money, has to get it from the Treasury. Treasury gets it from
Us.
WA, right? And so when we look at, it's interesting that banks that would have the ability to practice fractional reserve banking, lending money that doesn't belong to them,
Uh-huh.
and have FDIC behind them,
Uh-huh.
and get to take in and lend out our own money. Would you be surprised that 500 banks have failed in the last 15 years? Just in the last 15 years. Now, it hasn't cost us $100 billion every year, but probably it's cost us close to $1 trillion in FDIC funds going to save the savings accounts of good people like us in the last 15 years. So when people go and say, well, I'm trusting in the bank, well, maybe we should think twice about that. What's the next slide? I can't wait to see.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Something?
Yeah.
I'm amazed at what you just unfurled there, and it seems kind of ludicrous that somebody gets stuck up somewhere along the line. What is all of that?
Great
Oh.
question.
Although
That
that's
is
a
a great
list of the 500 banks that have failed in the past 15 years. Happy to email you a copy.
Because you know,
It's
got a
on,
lot of it.
it's online. It's online.
What's that got to do with derivatives as well?
Derivatives are a completely separate thing. We don't want to talk about that.
No.
Because you'll go home and slash your wrist if you talk about that. So I think let's just buzz through this because we talked about this on the board. Okay? What happens to your money when you save? Anthony's going to talk about the way velocity works. Right before he does that, I want to make sure that we completed the thought about banks and bank failures. Now, the private reserve, that's another thing that they call it, private reserve banking, infinite banking, the perpetual wealth code 770 accounts, are all based on insurance companies' funds. And one of the really cool things that banks do, and we could use Bank of America as an example. Banks buy tons and tons of life insurance. It's interesting to me that banks that have the ability to take in our money, lend it back to us, and make all these profits, are still buying boatloads of life insurance. So if you go on Bauer Financial, B-A-U-E-R, Bauer Financial, there's a copy. No, there isn't a copy. We can email you a copy. You don't have to buy that one, because I already bought the report on Bank of America. So anybody who's interested, let us know and I can email you that report. But Bank of America took in last year about 1.8 they paid out $1.8 billion paid out in interest to us on our savings account. They took in about $43 billion in interest that they charged us. Okay?
Wow.
The banks are conservative financial institutions. And that's a factor of about 2,400%. It's not credit card interest, folks. These are crazy numbers. And the only reason this happens is because banks think like bankers. They capitalize. They always keep a high level of capital. They take in the money and they make sure that they receive an appropriate rate of interest. Okay? And they invest in us, they invest in guarantees, because our mortgage payments, our car payments, and our interest payments are guaranteed. Now, when you and I, from 2001 to 2010, in the S&P earned about 2.5%, Bank of America was investing in us and making 2,000%. Now, would you rather put your money in the stock market, or would you rather finance your own car and make 10% on it? Anthony, go through velocity quickly, if you like. If you want to skip it, you can.
I do it quickly.
Do it quickly, and then.
That's because I'm not the clicker.
And then, yeah, I hate the clicker. I don't need a clicker for a whiteboard. And we're gonna make sure that we talk about financing cars over the next 50, 60, 70 years.
Okay.
And then we're gonna answer questions.
Okay, perfect. Again, hopefully I try to introduce myself to everybody. Alan, I don't think I was able to introduce myself. My apologies. My name is Anthony. I am unfortunately a CPA. And do you know what CPA stands for on Saturday?
Couch potato.
I wish. Have you been talking to my wife for it? It means coffee, please, ASAP. Okay, so if anybody needs coffee, I will not be insulted. But hopefully, I'm going to kind of show some exciting concepts here of what Joe had touched on. The first one we're going to talk about is what happens to your money when you put it in the bank. Okay, so if you deposit $100,000 into the bank, and when I mean bank, I mean any bank, not just U.S. Bank, just the banking system. For this example, we're going to say that they're going to pay you 4%. Okay, what is the bank going to do with that money as soon as you make that deposit? Aren't they going to put it in their vault and just hold it for, or buy CDs?
Are you kidding?
No, Rick, you're right. The moment you make that deposit into the bank, it becomes a liability to them. Not only do they owe you the $100 grand, they owe you interest, right? So they're going to turn around and put the money to work. In this example, we're going to say that they loaned it to somebody to buy a house. So when somebody buys a house they're going to give the money to the seller. What's the seller going to do what's the first thing they're going to do with that money?
Put it in the bank.
Great, you guys are catching on. They're going to put it back in the bank, right? So what's the bank going to do with it?
Loan it out.
They're going to loan it out. So we're going to say that they're going to loan it out to buy a car or maybe a few cars. They're going to give it to the dealer. What's the dealer going to do with it?
Put it in the bank.
Right? And so the bank is going to, what's the bank going to do with it? They're going to constantly turn it. They're going to use for a house remodel. They're going to give it to the contractor. The contractor's going to put it in the bank. The bank's going to turn it around, say for a debt consolidation loan. They're going to pay off their credit cards. And then they're going to put it in the bank. Now, let me ask you, how much money did the bank invest in this? Whose money are they using? They're using your money, right? They did have to capitalize their business. Like if anybody ever started a business, we have to capitalize it. But after that, they're just using your money and they're continually to turn it. Now, let's take a look and see how much money they actually made. The difference between 4 and 3 is 7. Between 4 and 8 are 4. Between 4 and 9 is 5, and 4 and 12 is 8. So if we were to add that up, it's 20%. Now, how much more money did the bank make than you did?
5 times.
You would think 16. Now you're making me feel even worse that I didn't shake your hand, Alan. You're right. They made 5 times. Right? You made 4 and they made 20.
That's right.
That is 500% more.
Yep.
Is anybody interested about owning a bank? Right? Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I was just
You just want to own a bank. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
my own.
Sign up, huh?
That is a good segue because what we're going to show here in a minute is going to be an example.
Wow.
But This was from the Bauer report that Joe had erased, but basically, if we take Bank of America, the amount of interest they're making, this is probably this is in the billions, right? They made $43 billion in interest. But how much interest did they pay out? 1.8. So really 500 is a little bit conservative, okay? I'm gonna write 500 on the board here, so we're gonna address it later. I was also seeing if you guys pay attention. I'm not supposed to use this. Okay, you guys almost let me. I'm just making sure that you guys are paying attention, okay?
We've had someone do an entire presentation with Sharpie on the whiteboard.
New
Yeah.
whiteboard.
New whiteboard.
Right on the other side of it.
They don't work here anymore.
Okay, so, has anybody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yes.
Right, Robert Kiyosaki said, if poor people would just do what the rich people did, they wouldn't be poor anymore.
Wow.
Sounds pretty simple, right?
Sure.
So, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do what do the wealthy and the banks do with their money, okay? And banks are one of the largest owners of life insurance. They own so much it has its own name, BOLI. Very creative, bank-owned life insurance, okay? But banks and the wealthy are using that, and what we're gonna talk about is why, and then we're going to give an example, okay? I'm gonna skim through these if that's okay.
Yeah, there's a sheet in your folder
Okay.
But
that addresses this point.
a few things that I wanted to talk about is that it is liquid, guaranteed earnings. We're not subject to market loss. We have tax-free dividends. There's unlimited amount that you can deposit. Okay, the income in there grows tax deferred. In the state of Nevada, cash value of life insurance is protected from creditors. There's minimal management fees. This is 100% track record. The companies that we use have been in business for over 100 years and have paid dividends each one of those 100 years. So they paid during the Great Recession and during the Great Depression.
How many life insurance company failures occurred when we were having 500 banks fail?
15.
Any
Great
guess?
question.
None.
0.
Right, none.
Wow.
Because banks, you know, that when we did that velocity of money with the bank turning that money, that's great when things are great. Okay, when things are bad, it's even worse. So they're living on the leverage, and when there's a hiccup, it can destroy. Insurance companies are not built that way. They're actually built. They have a long-term focus. They're actually built for financial times like this. One thing I also want to point out is that this is also has a great storage for a windfall. Also, when we withdraw money from it, it's tax-free. Actually, what I meant to start with is, what does Jacques have in common with the Koch brothers that started McDonald's, with Walt Disney and J.C. Penney, not plural, and George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life?
The hat. No.
They have all used life insurance and the cash value of life insurance in their business. Did you know that nobody would give Walt Disney a loan to build Disneyland? So where did he get the money? He got the money from his life insurance. Now, the first time I got exposed to life insurance as a kid was watching It's a Wonderful Life. Do you remember when there was a run on the bank? Or no, it was the uncle. The uncle lost the cash because he went into the other bank and he lost in the other bank. How did he save his savings and loan from going under? because he had the cash value of his life insurance. I'll go through this a little quickly, but here's a difference between the way bankers think and the way borrowers think. You know, bankers want to capitalize. Borrowers actually decapitalize. They're not putting money in their system, they are taking money out. Here's one of my favorites. Bankers borrow money to invest. Borrowers borrow to spend. Okay, banks own cash value life insurance. Borrowers rent term insurance. Bankers focus on guarantees, make sure that that money is coming in. Borrowers are focused on, take on risk. Bankers think long term. Borrowers are thinking short term. And here's another one of my favorites. Bankers collect interest. Borrowers pay interest. Which one would you rather be?
Bank.
Okay, good answer. This slide is gonna represent all the different places that you can store your money. We can have it in a cash or a CD. You can put it in real estate. You can put it in permanent life insurance. You can invest it in your business, maybe oil and gas or silver and gold, some commodities, or you can put it inside the stock market. Okay, but you know what all of these have in common is that they all need to be financed some way. And you know, maybe on the next discussion we're going a little more deeper. Well, you can actually use the permanent life insurance as a basis or as a bank to allow you to invest in your business or to allow you to invest in the stock market or oil and gas. What you're going to find out is we're not saying that you need to put all your money in life insurance, even though we have many clients that do and are very happy with it. But this isn't an either or, this is an and. Okay, this is only make whatever you're doing more efficient. So if you have some money here, it will allow you to invest it inside other areas. Here's a few tax options. Now, we can either be taxed today, meaning that it's taxed as income is earned. It can be taxed in the future, commonly called tax deferred, or it could be tax never.
I like that.
Okay, who can give me some examples of assets that are taxed today?
Wages.
Hey, Joe, you mind writing for me? Sure. Okay, so it would tax today.
Property.
Property, yeah, like
Homes.
rental property, right? Right. What else?
Sales tax.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's when you're spending, but I mean on your assets and income, that's subject to tax. Anything else?
Interest earned.
Interest, yeah, interest on CDs and dividends. If you have it on the stock market or a mutual fund. How about a pension? Isn't that taxed today? Or our job? Pardon?
Social Security and part of it's taxed.
Social Security is taxed as well. What's tax deferred? Roth IRAs are actually tax free. Close. What? Yes. Traditional IRA.
Yeah.
Your 401k. Annuities. Now, who thinks taxes are going up? Anybody? Okay. Would you rather pay tax on the seed, the dollar that you deposit, or pay tax on the harvest, the dollars that you take out?
Never is not a choice.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Never is not a choice.
It can be. Well, no, I mean, your income's gotta be taxed. I mean, we live in this world, it's gonna be taxed, whether we can tax on the dollar we put in, or the $5 we take out. Which one would you rather pay tax?
That you put in.
Right? We'd rather pay tax on the seed, on that $1, than we're hoping we're gonna take out $5, right? Okay, the problem is,
You can time?
Mike? Yeah, yeah.
okay, I try to speed up.
Sorry.
Okay, so what's happening is when we do this tax deferral, we're actually violating those. If we think taxes are going up, what we're having is we're paying tax on a higher rate on the harvest. What are some examples of a tax-free or tax never?
Life insurance.
You're right, Maureen, you're paying attention, that's great. Life insurance, Lois had said Roth IRA, a 529 plan, that's specific for college costs, and also muni bonds. Now, I want to ask you directly, but where do you think most people's assets are out of these three?
Future.
Right? I mean, a lot of them are we're taught to put money in our IRAs and 401ks, right? Maybe we have a pension if we're lucky with Social Security, but everything we have is going to be taxed either now or in the future. But if you had to choose the three, which one would you rather have it be taxed as? Never, right? But how many of us have stuff up here?
Tax chart.
Okay. This is the history of the marginal tax rate. So
100 years.
take a look here in the 40s. I mean, it was over 90.
Can you explain what marginal tax?
Oh, perfect. Great, Maureen. So the question is, what is marginal tax rate? In our, we have what's called a progressive tax. Okay, which sounds fancy, huh? But basically what that means is that we have different tax rates. So there's some amount of income that's actually zero tax because we have standard deductions. But then after all of our deductions, there's a 10% tax bracket. Okay, and then after that, if your income goes up, oh, here we go. Thank you, Joe. So here are our tax brackets: 10, 15, 25, 28, 33, 35, and 39.6. So, and here's the levels. So let's say you made $100,000, you just use round figures. Part of it will be at 10%, and then this amount will be at 50%, or I'm sorry, 15, and then this amount will be at 25. So your marginal means what is your tax rate on the next dollar you earn. So this average may average out to say maybe 16%, okay? But the next dollar you earn is going to be taxed at 25, okay?
Yeah. I have to fix my screen for a second, sorry.
So not everybody's an IT expert, huh, John?
I'm fixing what you've messed up.
Touche.
Okay, where you going?
Let's go to PowerPoint. I think we're ready for,
I think you're ready for your car example.
yeah. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the car example. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a real life example of how creating your own banking system can work, okay? What we're going to do, you guys do have this handout here.
They already memorized it.
Okay. Now, there's always somebody who likes to look at the end, like the guy who reads the book and reads the last chapter first. But I know there are a lot of numbers on here, but I am going to go step by step. So I would recommend that you follow us on the screen, but if you want to follow it in there, that's fine as well. What we're going to do is we're gonna compare two systems, okay? Because maybe some people tell me, you know, I don't need life insurance. You know, I don't need to go through the underwriting, or I really don't need death benefit. Let's just set all of that aside. What we're gonna do is we're gonna compare using the banking system through life insurance, the way we design it, or using a CD, which is even better than cash. So if you read Nelson's book, he talks about the different ways to buy a car. And I know we talked about paying cash. But what we're going to do is we're going to compare building a banking system with CDs or using life insurance. And what we're going to do is we're going to put $10,000 in each account. We're going to put $10,000 in here on the CD. Then we're going to put $10,000 here inside a life insurance policy. And this is going to be the cash value. Okay? We're going to do that for 7 years. Okay? Now, here we are paying tax. Okay? And we're earning interest. We're using that the CD is paying us 2%. Can anybody get a 2% CD right now?
No.
No, so our numbers are going to be very conservative. But remember, interest is on the tax now side, so we're gonna have to pay taxes on it, okay? Now, at the beginning, we have over $10,000 in our CD, and in our life insurance policy, we have slightly less than 6. So who is ahead at year 1? CD, right? Now, this banking system is more of a long-term view. Bankers think long-term. If we look at short-term, for the first few years, this is not for you, okay? But what I like to use the analogy of, it's not as important who starts the racing first. It's important who ends the racing first. Has anybody heard of Michael Phelps?
Mhm.
Okay, if you, in the 100-meter freestyle, he was actually 5th off the blocks. So at the very beginning of the race, he was in 5th place. And then halfway through at the turn, he was in 7th place. Now, you guys may not have known that, but you knew who won, right? Because we always know who wins. We don't really know who started in first. Now, does anybody, for extra credit, know who started in first? Who was first off the blocks in that race? Nobody does, right? Because he didn't win. Right? And in a Rolling Stones interview, his mother was interviewed, and she even forgot he was in the Olympics. I'm joking. But what it is that it doesn't matter who starts in first. What's matter is who ends in first. And in following this process, that's exactly what you will do. Okay? So in this example, and I will go through it, we're going to put $10,000 into each program for 7 years. Okay? And then at the end of 7 years, we are going to buy a car for $25,000. We are going to pay ourselves back $500 a month, which is more than what we took out, right? Because we are paying ourselves interest. You know, and Joe had touched on that. What I like to say is if we borrow money from a bank and pay them interest, and then we borrow money from our savings account and we don't pay ourselves interest, what we're saying is that the bank's money is worth more than ours. And I don't know about you, but for me, I work really hard to earn my money. So for me, it is more valuable than the bank. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out, well, first let me, has Joe, who still has their first car? Right? How much money do we have from all the cars that we purchased? 0, right? If we're lucky, we have the equity in the car we own now, right? But all the cars that we bought, all that money is gone, right? Now, if we could show you a way that you could get the money back on your cars, and that you could show your children how they could get their money back on their cars. Would that be okay? So, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take out $25,000. We're gonna pay ourselves back $500 a month, okay? So, we're taking out 25, we're putting in 30. We're paying an extra $5,000 of interest, okay? And our account from the banking, our policy grew from 66 to 90. So we really put in $5,000 and our account grew by 23. Anybody have a problem with that? Would anybody not give up, pay $5,000 to get $23,000? Even if you didn't pay tax on the 23, would that be okay, Rick?
Yes.
If that 23 was tax, oh, okay, tax-free. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Now, what do we typically do after we pay off our car?
Celebrate.
Get a new one.
Right. We celebrate and go get a new car, right? So what we're gonna do is we are going to buy another car 5 years later. So think of this, if you are married, that's really buying one car every 10 years. So we are going to do the same thing. We're gonna take out $25,000. We're gonna pay back $6,000. Okay, we pay an extra $5,000. Okay, here's the cool thing. How much did our account grow by?
31,000,
It grew by 31,000,
That's good.
tax-free. So your car was 25, interest was 5, with a total of 30. Did you get back all the principal and interest on the car? So then how much did the car really cost you if you got all your money back? Exactly, nothing. Now, if this would work for a car, would it work for a child's education? Or maybe a down payment on a rental property? Or maybe a diamond ring? Okay, Rick?
Okay.
Okay.
Hint, hint.
Sorry, Rick.
I know.
You are welcome, Lois. But the whole point is that this can work on anything. You know, Nelson Nash, Joe had referred to of this book, calls it the infinite banking concept. He calls it infinite because there's infinite ways to use it. We're just using a car example because it is very easy to relate to. And one thing I like to point out is that our account, we grew from, let's say, 84 to 94. Okay, I'm gonna round that to $10,000. Is that okay? Okay, and then this grew from 90 to 121. Okay, and that's actually 31,000. Okay? But we put $5,000 into it, so we have to account for that. So the net that we earned using the CD grew by $5,000, and by using our own bank made 26. Now, I know it's Saturday, but can somebody tell me how much more money we made than the outside bank? Is that close to 500, right? Now, if we scroll down one more, Joe, I know this is exciting, but we're not gonna go through every car, but
Yes, we are.
we're,
Whoa,
okay.
just the last one. Hit the
But-
last one.
But I think you guys understand what's going on. Well, all we're doing is taking money that we were going to spend anyways, instead of giving that money to $500 a month to Bank of America, it's going to the Bank of Rick. Okay? And so here, every time we do it, we are earning more and more money. Okay? Are we working any harder? Are we changing our cash flow? Are we telling you that you need to save more, or, you know, you pretty much had a $500 a month car payment? Are we taking on any risk? Now, if anything, we're taking on much less risk, because as we know, sometimes, will you turn that back over there? Sometimes life happens, or it is or it is the unknown, right? So I can speak for myself, I'm not sure about everybody in here, but there's been some times when life happens and I have trouble making my car payment. You know, but now that I own the bank, I have that flexibility. I want to pay myself back, but maybe I might skip a payment or two, okay? Bank of America, if you call them and say, hey, can I skip a payment?
Right.
They're gonna wanna verify your address so they can send a repo man
Right.
to take your car, okay? But I am not gonna repo my own car. So by doing this, would this help with the unknown? You know, that if you had a bunch of money here that you could use, does somebody have penalties on here? We did have penalties? Okay, but
17.
you can access this money penalty-free. Okay. This, as Joe, we talked about, is actually tax-free. Now, if you use this, again, we're just using money that you already had, and aren't you gonna have more? So the lack of, and one thing I wanna point out, this is a $25,000 car. All these numbers are relative. If your cars are 12,500, just cut all these in half. If your car is 50,000, double them. Okay, and what's this, outlive? Okay, as you're gonna see with this, this is growing, the way policies are designed, they get more efficient every single year. So the longer you live, the better your policy is going to be. Now, we touched on briefly, but this is protected from the IRS, protected from creditors, and it is asset protected. It's protected from all of these bank failures, right? It's also protected from market risk. These are not invested in the market as well. The inflation leads for a little more in-depth discussion, but this is commonly referred to as an inflation-safe environment. You have access to your money. You can typically get money out of your policy in about 7 days. Okay, so it is liquid, and that's with no penalties. Okay, safety, again, it's a safe, there's guarantees, this is not gonna go down. The D value is a bigger discussion, I don't know if it's fair, I don't, but, this is guaranteed to grow, okay? What else we got? Now, who said investment? Was it Rob? Rob, what was your concern about investment?
Making conscientious decisions. You know,
Okay.
That's what I worry about.
Okay. With this, we're just showing you how to use your own money. I mean, the decision, you're really investing on yourself, right? I'm gonna talk to Deb in a second. Procrastination, which Joe put on there, which is kind of hard to define using this. But for one, you guys are already here. So you guys are already starting to take action. As good as Joe is, we can't overcome this for you. Okay, that's something that you guys gotta do. But what we can do is we can create a system and a process that makes it easier. Gifting. Now, with all this extra cash, wouldn't this allow you to gift more money? I know we didn't put legacy, but we didn't even talk about death benefit.
Inheritance.
Okay, inheritance. With your health. Now, there are some pretty cool advantages here, because when your health does deteriorate, or maybe you need some medical expenses, the more cash we have, it's going to make it easier to pay for your care. But also, there's some ways that we can actually use some of that death benefit to pay for some long-term health care. Now, inheritance. How much did I talk about life insurance during this example? Will you scroll all the way up?
Up or down?
Up, like, to the very top. I didn't talk at all about life insurance. What we're trying to teach you is to take the power of banking over, take it away from the banks and put the power in your family. Life insurance, we've discovered, is the best vehicle in order to do that. But it would be dishonest if we didn't at least discuss this, okay? This, I tell people, this is just icing on the cake. This would still be better, this is still better than the CD, whether you had any money in here or not, okay? Now, Maureen, my mom tried to raise a gentleman, so I would never dare ask a lady her age. But I'm gonna bet you're slightly over 26.
Slightly, just
Okay,
a little.
all right.
Mother raised you.
Clearly 9.
Okay.
Yeah, congratulations.
So what, the way we design these, we're designing it for cash value, not for death benefit. We design this exact opposite of maybe somebody had a policy before. So if, Maureen, if we had I'm gonna go on a limb, say I'm a little younger than you. If we did a policy, the same amount of money, 10,000 on you, 10,000 on me, our cash value would be within dollars right here. What it would be is my death benefit would be a little higher than yours, only because I'm younger. Okay, so the death benefit again is just icing on the cake. I also want to point out is when could we have bought a $25,000 car?
Right there.
Yeah, so if we would have bought a car in year 4 and paid ourselves interest earlier, what would happen to the numbers? Would they look better or worse? Better, right? Because the more we're using it, the more interest is going from an outside bank into ours. Now, what if we had a credit card of, say, $6,000? Couldn't we pay it off right away and then pay ourselves that same amount of interest, right? And imagine the inheritance or the legacy that we could leave if we had all of this death benefit. Whether it goes to our kids with wisdom, or maybe we help out a church, or a charity, or a school, or a CPA. You can do a lot of good with that death benefit. Okay.
I said your mother raised a smart man.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this back over to Joe. I will be here afterward if you have any questions about the numbers or taxes. And again, thank you guys for the time.
Thank you.
How do you like that number 6 car? You only got $23,000 back on the first car. The same output for car number 6 gets you a $97,000 increase.
Wow.
So what we're talking about here is a very conservative way of addressing your money. I want to pull back. Yeah, just put my phone there. So kind of putting this all together, this is simpler than a clicker. So this is the way my family bank looks. Okay, we talked about the saver, right? We put our money in banks. Our banks lend the money out to others. And kind of what we alluded to, I think, is if you controlled all those spots, you would have more money. Make sense? So, as I said, when I met Nelson 15 years ago, I turned my financial life and my professional life upside down because I started doing what he was recommending, and so did probably, conservatively speaking, a couple of hundred extremely tenured financial advisors across the country. So Nelson has created for himself kind of a cottage industry. For a self-published book, Nelson has sold about 300,000 copies. Pretty good for a self-published book.
Highly recommended, by the way. If you don't have it, you should definitely have it.
I ask my clients to read this book. I ask my advisors who work here to read this book every single month. They're supposed to know what it says. So you notice that a lot of the things that I said wound up on the PowerPoint, and I said them before they were on the PowerPoint, because these are concepts that we're teaching, and you want to master every one of them, right? This is an advanced course on money. By the time you get into this kind of a lifestyle, you wind up coming to our classes more often. We have classes that are investment related. We have classes that are estate planning related, that are asset protection related, on legacy related. We have Social Security classes. We have classes that are more advanced where business owners and professionals and people with bigger banks want to learn how they could use their banks more effectively and efficiently, and they want to teach their kids how to start getting involved with the bank now, because it's going to take their kids years and years to unlearn the bad habits. Okay? So this is my family bank. I own, I like to call it an obscene amount of life insurance. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. We own 30 policies, only because I'm greedy. And I want that family bank to get bigger. And so when we say this is a concept, it says the infinite banking concept. Okay? So far, the state cannot control what goes on in here. Okay? And we can add as much or as little complexity as we deem appropriate. So we have clients who have family limited partnerships, who have LLCs, who have C corporations, S corporations, and some clients who have nothing but a concept in their head. And we can help you determine what level of complexity you'd like to create, and we can help you create it. We do work with your professionals as long as your professionals are teachable, but that's not an automatic. We only work with clients who are teachable. I mean, let's face it, if you're not teachable, if you're not open to new ideas, then this is not going to work for you. We only work with people who are teachable and who have integrity. And not every financial professional, not every attorney is open to new ideas. So the way my family bank works is this.